We're going to look at law of cosines in lesson 98. We've looked at law of sines before. And same kind of idea here is law of cosines is something we can use even if the triangle is not a right triangle. So the law of cosines states, now here's a triangle here, a squared, okay, if we're trying to find a squared equals b squared plus c squared, that kind of looks familiar from Pythagorean theorem, minus 2 times bc times cosine of a. B squared and c squared over here on the second two, these are all the same. It just switches the letters just depending on which variable you're solving for. This looks like a lot, but when you think about the concept, it's not too complicated when you're solving. If I'm finding a squared, I need the cosine of a. And I'm going to square the other two sides and multiply the other two sides by -2. And that's all you're doing. So now let's put it into practice in example 1. It wants us to find c. So to find c, all right, we're looking there. We're going to need to do the cosine, okay? I'm going to call it c squared. And since I'm looking for this side, I'm going to use this angle. So at the very end here, I'm going to put cosine of 22. And that's at the end there. So c squared equals 60 squared plus 80 squared. I'm just plugging everything into the formula. Minus 2 times 60 times 80 times cosine of 22. Okay? Sorry, I'm seeing if that's big enough that you can see it. Yeah. I'll just try to bring it a little bit closer. All right. So now we just solve. We only have one variable in c, so we can solve. So there we go. That's better. So I'm going to square 60. All right, 60 squared would be 3,600. 80 squared would be 6,400. I'm going to multiply 60 times 80 times -2, and that is going to give me -9,600 cosine 22. Now, order of operations from this point, we got to make sure that we do the multiplication first before we do any of the addition or subtraction. So I do -9,600 cosine 22. And that gives me roughly -8,900. All right, -8,900. Now I can start adding 3,600 plus 6,400 is 10,000. 10,000 minus 8,900. Okay. Is 1,100. So c squared equals 1,100. Square root both sides. And get c is approximately 33.17. 33.17. Oh, it's at the nearest tenth, so 33.2. And that's all you do for law of cosines. You're just plugging things in. If you know the formulas, it's not so bad, not so difficult. Let's look at one more where it's telling us to solve for an angle rather than a side. So that one has solved for a side. This next one, example 2, has us solve for measure of angle C. So that would be theta kind of right there. So what I need to do is I need to use the side that is opposite of the angle we're looking for. So I'm going to say 62 squared equals 57 squared plus 32 squared minus 2 times 57 times 32 times cosine of theta. And then we just start solving. So 57 squared, 3249. 32 squared, 1024. 62 squared, 3,844. Then we got negative 2 times 57 times 32, negative 3648 times cosine of theta. All right, times cosine of theta. So now from here, I'm going to go ahead and add these two together so I can make it look a little simpler here. 3249, 4273 minus 3648. All right, so now we're down to this point. Okay. So what I want to do is treat this as isolating cosine theta. So I'm going to get everything else that is not attached, meaning multiplied, to cosine theta. I'm going to move it all on this side. So I'm going to subtract negative 4,273. So 3,844 minus 4,273. So that's negative 429 equals negative 3648 cosine theta. Now to get cosine by itself, I need to get rid of the negative 3648, so I divide. These aren't being multiplied. So negative 429 divided by negative 3,648 is roughly 0.18. That equals cosine of theta. So to get theta by itself, we divide by cosine, and that makes it the inverse. So the inverse cosine of 0.18 would be 79.6, roughly. That would equal your measure of angle C. So that's how you solve for an angle using the law of cosines. And that is the end of lesson 98.